I did something a little bit different for you guys. We did a breakdown of Lubbock on a map. So that's what you're going to see. I'm going to break down all the new developments, where everything's moving, my favorite neighborhoods, where I think you ought to buy it for whatever preference you have. That's kind of going to be the breakdown of this video. A little bit different. I'm just talking right here on the webcam. So anyways, different office, different change of scenery. So yeah, enjoy. So let's kind of break Lubbock down and just look at everything. You know, a lot of people have never been here. You probably are going to look at a map on probably Google, maybe Apple, maybe Zillow, Realtor.com, whatever it is, and you're going to look at houses and see, but you don't really know what's going on in the city. You don't know the layout. You don't really understand it. Well, that's what your boy is here for. That's why I'm going to hopefully educate you guys a little bit about our great city, the geography of it, ultimately the neighborhoods that might fit your needs. So obviously one of the major things to discuss about Lubbock is going to be the loop, which is right here, this big old loop 289, which this is kind of how a lot of cities begin, in a sort of circle. People often say in Lubbock, they say, oh, do you live inside the loop or do you live outside the loop? And living inside the loop, you're going to be closer to Texas Tech University, which is just right here. That whole area is Texas Tech University right there. So this 62 turns into 114. That is 19th Street. And as I've discussed in other videos, Lubbock is on a grid system. So we see 19th Street right there. And then you've got the further south you go, the numbers go up. The further north they go down. As you can see, this is 10th Street. And then it goes from east to west alphabetical. So like over here, you'll have Avenue A, you'll have Ash, then it goes C, B. You can do the math. But yeah, I mean, so you just kind of see and it just kind of resets as you go. So that's kind of the general overview of the grid system and how that whole doohickey works right there. And then just going into infrastructure, continue talking about infrastructure. Let's say you live inside the loop. Let's say you live here in Bayless, Atkins, okay? And you want to get to over here to Northridge, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to head south and get on the loop and then make your way all the way over here, and then you're going to exit here, and then boom, you're at your location. As opposed, and you can still do this, to just driving down University, then driving down 19th Street all the way up to Northridge or whatever's going to be over here for you. So the loop is a very convenient way to travel. You just hop on it, you get to one spot. It takes you about 15 minutes to get from one side of town to the other. Okay, so if you're in Kelsey Park, which is pretty far south of the loop, well, you're going to hop on Indiana, and it might take you about 8 minutes to get to the loop. And then if you're going to keep going around, it's going to take you, 10 to 15 minutes to get to the complete other side of town. So it would take you about 10 or 15 minutes to get from around right here. Well, probably about 20. It would take you 7 or 8 to get here, and then going all the way over yonder, because it's a highway. So, I mean, there's no stop signs or anything like that. So you probably get here in about 15, 20 minutes. It's an easy way to traverse around the city. I've talked about it at length, but showing you guys on a map, kind of easier to understand. And I do walk through a lot of my clients about this stuff anyways. Now let's discuss the new loop development that's going to be coming, and I hope there are going to be some infographics that are going to help me out here. So you see these neighboring towns outside of Lubbock. So when I talk about Lubbock, I kind of mean this general area, right? Like going outside of all this stuff, you're kind of bordering on not Lubbock anymore. I would say if you moved further out here, like if you lived in Abernathy, I'd say, oh, you live in Abernathy. I wouldn't say, oh, you're from Lubbock. Whereas if you live in Shallowater, you'd probably say you're from Lubbock. Maybe if you want to say you're from Shallowater, you could say that. But this whole area kind of just encompasses Lubbock proper, really. Over here is another town called Levelland. This is about 45 minutes away from Lubbock proper. Like if you're leaving from here, it's probably going to take you 45 to an hour to get to Levelland. Okay, so just keep that in perspective. Towns like Abernathy, all that Rawls, that's probably 45 to an hour away. Crosby to an hour, 15 hour, 20. So that's kind of just the broader outreach of how Lubbock is, what is going on everywhere. Now, one of the major things to discuss that we have to talk about is the new loop, okay, that they're building. It's going to come pretty much from just in front of Slayton through Woodrow, kind of up here, and then just like that. Okay, so it's going to really connect a lot of where Lubbock is moving. It's going to make it much easier to get around than it kind of already is. And let me tell you guys, this is going to be huge for the city. It's going to be done in the next 10, 15, 20 years. You never know with bureaucracies when things are actually going to get done. I think they initially said 20 years. It's looking like they're making some good progress. I hang out around here a lot, around this general area. Well, really, I really hang out everywhere. But you can see the construction, and it's going gangbusters. I mean, the construction is really happening. It's popping right now, so that's something. But once it's finished, man, it is going to assemble this area and only continue to benefit the growth that we're seeing thus far, which is mainly moving in this general direction. As you can see where all this white stuff is, like this is where Lubbock is really moving like crazy. Okay, out towards Wolfforth, southwest, south towards Cooper and the Cooper School District area, and then you got the Friendships going to be over here. But just in general, that loop is going to make traveling even easier. It's going to keep moving things south, southwest as we continue to grow and hit 400, 500,000 people. Now, the good thing about the Lubbock infrastructure, which I've been talking about for way longer than I thought I would, is that Lubbock is really ahead of infrastructure. I think it's really planning for the amount of people that we're going to have in the next 2 decades, which is great. There's minimal to no traffic here. Even in the construction areas, it doesn't take that long to get from A to B. Even in the areas where there's heavy construction or whatever, they're putting in street lights. They're, making it more efficient to get from one area to the next. Sometimes you just take a different route. You just go another way, and it's not that hard to do that because we're on a grid system. So Lubbock is kind of broken up into 4 major areas, I guess you could say: north, south, east, west. Anything in this general area is going to be considered North Lubbock, okay? So we'll put an N there. Now, anything that's east of this 27, this, I would say most east of University, I would throw into East Lubbock, but really it's going to be east of this 27. This would all be considered like kind of East Lubbock, okay? Would be right here. I would consider South Lubbock anything that's just south of 82nd Street. You could go 98th Street for the sake of the argument, but we'll go ahead and include 82nd. It'd be like this whole area right here. Okay, that's gonna be like South Lubbock. This is where people are really moving south and southwest, where we're seeing a ton of growth is south, and we'll loop this in southwest, okay? Because this is Wolfforth, which is probably the most major suburb in Lubbock that has just absolutely exploded over the last 10 years. Southwest Lubbock. And then really anything in here is going to be the west, what I would consider west, out to the recenter, West Lubbock. From a Lubbockian, Lubbockites perspective, this is how I view it. You can view it differently, but this is pretty much, and then really anything, if you live in here, you're just like, oh, I'm in central Lubbock. I just live in Lubbock. You don't live north, south, east, or west. You just live in Lubbock. Close to the university, you're central Lubbock all the way, homeboy. And like I said earlier, if you live in Shallowater, anywhere near Shallowater, you'll probably say I live in Shallowater. Everyone knows that's northwest. If you live in Wolfforth, it's a different story. You probably say I live in Lubbock. You might say you live in Wolfforth, but you live in southwest Lubbock. Anywhere over here, gonna be south, and then all this stuff, east, west, all that jazz. Let me throw this in here now. This is a promo, obviously. I am a realtor by trade. That's what I do. I sell houses. So all these videos that I make, this channel, it's to be informative, it's to help you, but it'd also be great if you called me, texted me, DM'd me, reached out to me via email. If you wanted to move and I can help you buy a house. Now I do have one member, I have 2 members of my team. One of them has been helping me on the phones lately. His name is Joseph. He's awesome. You'll probably be in contact with him. He will also help you get to me, which is great. Why did we spend all that time talking about infrastructure and all that jazz for the better part of the last 20 minutes? Because I want you guys to understand just the general layout of the city and how it works. So let's get into it right here. So obviously Central Lubbock, we have Texas Tech University, which is one of the most massive pull factors for our city. If not the most, it definitely is the most. Now, close to Texas Tech University, you know you've got Tech Terrace, which I have discussed at length. Tech Terrace is a fantastic neighborhood for young adults, retirees, college students, everybody alike, because it has a lot of character. There is a barrier to entry, though, because stuff in this neighborhood can get quite expensive. On the further southern area of the neighborhood, houses can go anywhere from $175 to $350. In the middle of Tech Terrace, you're kind of looking at the same thing. The closer you get to Indiana, the lower in value you're actually going to get. But the further north, the further you get to 19th Street, you're going to be getting $700,000-$800,000 homes in here. So in one of the most highly sought after neighborhoods in Lubbock, Tech Terrace, you see just how much of a difference a couple blocks can make, like in value, in terms of you've got a couple millies in here and then a couple 150s over here. Now, close to Texas Tech University, right around here, and we'll just go ahead and block this whole deal off because this is really tech right here. Now, really close to here, right past Quaker. So right over here is where Covenant Hospital is. That's a massive draw, lots of employment. This area is called the Medical District right here. Call it Maxey Park, the Medical District, but a lot of people, travel nurses, all that jazz, they're going to work, they're going to go to Covenant Hospital right here. It's big, not too far away, kind of close to Texas Tech Parkway. Right over here is where you've got the med school, you've got UMC. That's another massive hospital. So two very big hospitals close to each other in Central Lubbock. So you can't blame people for wanting to live close to all of that because it's much easier. I will also say inside the loop, the tax rate is much better and houses are generally more affordable. General bubble right here is what you're finding, okay? This whole area, everything's more affordable by and large. So we're going to keep heading south down Indiana University to the neighborhoods that I sell a lot of houses in, most of my houses. So let's just check out this neighborhood right here, which is Fox Ridge. This is a neighborhood development that is about 10, 15 years old, maybe even, I mean, honestly, they're still building, they were building some new houses here about 5 years ago. This is one area where I would say, okay, like I would point someone who's looking between 225 to 300,000, 350 to Fox Ridge. If this would be one of the neighborhoods, I would say, hey, it's a good one to move to. You've got a Walmart neighborhood market very close by, which is great. And really all of this stuff is like the new area of Fox Ridge. But by and large, about 10 years ago, there was not much over here at all. But now, just 10, 15 years later, great area. So this is one neighborhood that I would pinpoint that I would say, hey, that's a good neighborhood to look at if you're in the 225, 300,000 range. Now, a lot of this stuff that we're going to get into is going to be in that general area, but just think south of 98th. A lot of this stuff is 10, 15 years old. The reason why I went straight to 98th Street is because here is the Cooper School District. So that's 98th right there. It kind of comes over here, goes this way a bit yonder, and then you're kind of going to get everything over here. It's pretty darn big, folks. Okay, so just about all of this is Cooper. This is Lubbock Cooper. That's why a lot of people want to be in this area. I keep telling folks they built a brand new high school here. They're building new elementary schools all over the place. Elsie Park, one of the highest sought after neighborhoods. That new HEB that we've talked about is right here. But for example, like everything's new, you know, this whole area over here, like everything over here is about 5 years old. So back in 10 years ago, this was cotton field. Not much here at all. But now it's developments. Now Vintage has been here for a little bit longer, about 10, 15 years. Of course, they built the HEB about 3-4 years ago. This academy, everything over here is about 5 years old. And if you drove down this area, and hopefully you're getting some B-roll footage of the areas right now because I filmed them at length, this is what you're seeing, and this is where a lot of folks want to be. So neighborhood, let's take Kelsey Park, for example. Kelsey Park is where you're going to have some higher end homes. You're going to have some, it's really going to be 400,000 to up to $1 million. These are really nice. This neighborhood's very nice. And there's not a lot down here now. They're still building a lot more infrastructure, a lot of restaurants. There's a great Rosa's, which is right here, which is a fantastic Mexican food restaurant that you must go to if you come into town. They're all over the place. Just this whole area in general is really popping, and you can't miss with a lot of these neighborhoods. Now, let's talk about some of the more affordable areas in this vicinity, this Lubbock Cooper vicinity. This right here is Bell Farms. It encompasses this entire, grid right here. This is a beat and bow development. It's a lot more affordable. You can be at $200,000. Heck, they sell 2s in here for like $180,000. I've sold about 5 or 6 houses here in the last 6 months and worked with Beat and Bow on selling those houses. It's been great. They're a great builder. If you're interested in buying a Beat and Bow, call me first because I can help you get a good deal on them. So this is just a very affordable area. This is Viridian right here. Same deal. These are 2 awesome neighborhoods where if you're in the $200,000, $300,000 range, you want to get something newer, you want to be in Lubbock Cooper. These are 2 fantastic neighborhoods that I would direct you to, that I would say, hey, let's get something there, okay? Let's go a little bit further west. Of course, we've discussed Vintage Township. Now we're at Quaker Avenue. And Quaker is one of those major streets, so it goes like University, Indiana, then Quaker. We're moving further west here. Some of these are a little bit older, so if you're into something maybe 30 years old, 40, 35 years old, something like that, these would be great areas for you, and I would still kind of say you're in South Lubbock. Now, you're not necessarily in the Cooper School District because you're not south of 98, but Raintree right here is a neighborhood that people love. Bigger houses, older houses. This is Lake Ridge Country Club. This neighborhood's called Lake Ridge, obviously. It's another fantastic neighborhood that a lot of people enjoy being in. Bigger lots, fescue grass, trees. I've driven these neighborhoods. I've shown you them before, but these are awesome neighborhoods that I would consider being in if you're wanting something a bit older, okay? But you're not going to be in Lubbock Cooper. And the reason I'm going so in depth about these school districts is because this is what a lot of people really care about. Now, but it doesn't mean you have to buy something brand new, like most of this stuff is. Which I would say brand new is either being brand new or being within the last 5-10 years. So we've then hit Quaker, which is west. Now we're going to go over to Slide Road, which is another major street just off Slide. Like there was a massive new development built all like right here. Okay. All new retail, restaurants, commercial buildings, all that jazz. And this is all about a year old and it looks really nice and it's new. So I'm just going to show where the new stuff is kind of popping up. This Academy, this HEB, all 5 years old. It's really growing like crazy here. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these neighborhoods grow so fast and these areas grow so fast out this way. Because I remember when I first started driving out here, there'd be nothing. There'd just be plumb nothing. And now it's not quite like that. So that was Quaker and Slide, okay? And the further we go out here, guys, one more little thing. The further we go out here, the more expensive it gets. I mean, you're looking down here, some $1 million homes in these developments that are very nice. Just like this is probably Sedona right over here, which I'm doing a video on right now currently, actually. These are $1 million homes, $2 million homes, very nice area. People who want some acres, they want some land. Now, if you're really wanting land, I would move further south. That's a different area. Let's keep moving west. So that was Quaker. Now we're at Slide, which we just discussed. Frankfurt's another one of these major streets. I would say it kind of ends where you start talking about the major streets at Milwaukee. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of this stuff, and I talk about Milwaukee at length as well, a lot of this stuff over yonder, all about 10, 15 years old as well. So that's relatively new, I would say, 5, 10, 15 years old. And the neighborhoods that have popped up here are because of a lot of the infrastructure that's been built along this area, especially Milwaukee and 82nd around here. There's a Walmart here that's been there a while. Right here, you've got Windstone at Upland, which is a Beat and Bow development. Quincy Park was as well. So you see Beat and Bow, they developed a lot of neighborhoods in Lubbock, and they still do. So that's an easy way to kind of gauge where stuff is. Now, but it definitely slows down as you head west on 98th down to Wolfforth, okay? It definitely ends, like a lot of the major stuff is going to really be, I would say, like over here, okay? It's where a lot of the major newer developments are, retail, restaurants. A lot of this newer stuff is going to be 114th and north and just a little bit south. Like it's trickling down. The developments or the commercial stuff is trickling down. So now we're heading towards Wolfforth, which obviously is a big old deal. And Wolfforth is where you start really heading into southwest Lubbock, okay? And on 82nd Street, actually, close to Wolfforth, is where you're going to find, honestly, a lot of the newer developments, not necessarily 98. They're building a pretty much new commercial development, like right here. It's going to be a bunch of buildings. They just built a brand new hospital, like right here, I would say. And that's another thing that's happening as well, the new hospitals. They're building these new kind of small to mid-sized hospitals. They're not dock in the box, primary care type places. So heading in towards Wolfforth, okay, this is where Friendship High School is, guys, and this is where a lot is booming for the southwestern part of Lubbock. I would say that Friendship and Cooper are kind of in a stalemate of who's growing the most and who's going to have the most development just in general over the next 5 years, because Wolfforth is its own little city. It's its own city, okay? So they're not bound by everything that Lubbock's doing. They are, they're doing their own thing. They got their own city council. They got their own little government. They're doing their own thing. They got their own police department. They're nice folks there. I've rushed into them 1 or 2 times. Now, this neighborhood right here is Preston Manor, okay, which I've done videos on. I've shown you guys Preston Manor before. It's Wolfforth's crown jewel, I would say, in terms of how much people want to be here and just the absolute blowing up of Preston Manor in general. Now, outside of really Preston Manor is like kind of this, and then these surrounding areas are you'd call them different neighborhoods. Technically, they're a lot more affordable. Like you're going to find $250,000 to $300,000 houses over here. Closer to Preston Manor Park is where you're going to be finding some probably 3-4 million ones. 2.5, 1, but also some 400,000 or 500,000. But this has been a site of heavy growth in the last 5 years, has been Preston Manor. And why, do you ask? Well, I'll tell you, folks, you kind folks, is because Friendship High School is right here, and it's big, and they've got a football stadium, which is right here. And folks love this area, and it's continually growing everywhere. There are new housing developments just about all over this John right here. Right here, you're gonna see. Now this is like it's like a field. There's not much here. There are developments that are happening a bit over in these areas, little subsections of them. Okie dokie. So we've made our way west. We started south, we're making our way west. Now we're gonna go up north a bit. Now, like I said earlier, I would consider this West Lubbock, and this Costco right here is a good mark of you're kind of getting west, all right? Obviously, Costco's a massive deal. People love it. This whole area right here is called, the west side? That's what it is. I should know because I've sold something here. I've sold the P.F. Chang's in the West End is what this is called. And the P.F. Chang is probably somewhere right around here. This is called the West End specifically. Shopping center developed by Graco. They're a huge outfit in Lubbock. They do so much stuff. It's crazy. They own like half the city, it seems like. This looks like a little potato. There's our little West End potato guy right there. And that's how you kind of know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm on the west side of town. And if I'm going to play golf, maybe at the Reese Center, which is down here, the Reese Center, this is like really west. This is very west. Now, I still like West. I like West Lubbock a lot. I like all areas of Lubbock. It's a cool poppin' town, or it's a cool and poppin' part of town. And there's a lot that's growing over here. Now, a lot of this stuff is or has been older, but you can find a lot of affordable housing in this general vicinity, okay? Lots of affordable stuff, older type houses, but not in bad shape. I'm talking 125 to 200,000 in this area. It's going to be older, but they're going to still be nice. And of course, your you're in the immediate vicinity of a lot of good stuff. You're close to Costco. There's a lot of nice retail restaurants in this west end right here. The further west you go, you're going to hit the Recenter, which is a pretty fun golf course. Now, there are some nice developments in here. I own a couple rental houses in this neighborhood specifically. I really like this neighborhood. This is called Willow Bend, and that's a great neighborhood. If you're in the if you're in the 200 to 300,000 range, this is a fantastic neighborhood of houses that were built in like 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. I like this neighborhood a lot. Like I said, own 2 rentals in this neighborhood. I think it's fantastic. And that's kind of what it's about. You find neighborhoods that you like, that have high demand. A lot of people don't want to move. They don't want to be close to the city. They want to feel like they're a little bit further out. And as you can see, in these areas that are a little bit more quiet, there's not a ton of development that's going on like in these little grids. Now, like right here, though, there are some newer developments. There's newer areas there's one called Bushland Springs, which I believe is right here. But there are some newer housing developments that you're going to see. And most of the new developments, if they're not commercial, they're going to be houses. Okay, they're going to be houses. So we're just making our way around Lubbock. Let's head to North Lubbock. You've got another golf course right here, Shadow Hills, which is a great place to play. And like I've just said, you can get $150,000, $250,000 house in this area that's older, not in terrible shape. A lot of people have worked on these houses, but you're still close to all this stuff. Like you're close to an Alamo Draft House, which is newer and cooler. Go see a movie. That's where you can grab an adult beverage because they ask you to explicitly, because it's called Draft House. Folks, see? Now, now we're getting to North Lubbock. I would say this is North Lubbock. I lived in this area for a time, North Point, and see we're on Slide Road. Like Slide, it's just going to keep going. And then Quakers right here, these streets, these major thoroughfare streets, they go north-south. They go all the way down through the whole city. I lived in this area. It's another fantastic area where you can buy $200,000 to $300,000 houses. The bread and butter of Lubbock, Texas, I would say, is the $200,000 to $300,000 house. This is what I would consider North Lubbock, is this just whole area over here. Okay, I mean, you could say this is west, but really north of the Rawls, like if you're going over here, this is North Lubbock, and then all the way up to Shallowater. You can kind of do that. I would say so, and I think that's probably pretty accurate to the original thing that I drew. Okay, there's a Linwood town. Well, they're called something else now, but they were called the Linwood townhomes that are over here and some over here. Huge duplex development, and that's where you're looking at a 3-3 for about $1,200 a month. Duplexes. So, and they're sprinkled throughout. That's why Love was kind of cool. You've got some areas that just have duplexes, then some single-family homes, just single-family homes. And think these major streets are kind of dividers of what quality type thing you're going to see. But for example, let me tell you about North Point. When I lived here, I lived about right here. This area was a giant field. And I'm talking dirt, nothing. And then this area, well, that's kind of a hospital type area. But a lot of stuff over here was a field, and then this was a field. So, and I moved out of that area in 2021. I moved out of this area. Since then, this is an affordable storage, giant storage facility. There is a brand new gas station right here. They've built brand new student housing developments right here. Very nice to the nines. They're building a brand new apartment complex right here, all sorts of stuff. And then they're building something here. Okay, so let's keep moving up here. And then like we've showed earlier, you're going to have Shallowater up here. This is about 15 minutes from Lubbock. Okay, that's about 15 minutes Lubbock proper. As you notice, you can take 84 and then hop right on the loop and get to wherever you need to go. Now, this is still going to be about a 15-minute drive to town if you live up here in Shallowater. I would say if most people are considering like being outside of town, it's going to be Shallowater. It's going to be Ransom Canyon, Buffalo Springs Lake, Roosevelt, and we're about to go over there, so no worries. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, finally, okay? East Lubbock, which everyone likes to discuss and say how terrible it all is and blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. I think East Lubbock has a lot going for it. For example, Prairie Dog Town is dope. This has, ironically, the coolest geography in Lubbock where you're actually finding hills and a giant patch of grass, parks, all sorts of pretty cool areas that you're going to see. Now, elephant in the room, obviously, there is crime, okay? There's crime. It happens, and that's just the way it is, folks. But from what I've seen over the past 10 years, 11 years, is that a lot of this stuff is getting nicer. There's money going in to things over here. A lot of folks find it affordable to live in these areas east of 27. And, you know, if you can make it work, you can make it work. And then some people are flipping houses and making the neighborhoods nicer, okay? So it's not terrible. It's not the worst thing in the world. I don't have a lot of folks calling me wanting to move over here, which I understand. I don't tell people one way or the other where to move. I just kind of go off of what folks say and refer them to public data that shows where stuff is concentrated and what's happening. But by and large, like, this is not just an area that I would say, oh, it's a total, I wouldn't go. Well, I'm not legally allowed to say that, but just in general, there's opportunity everywhere, okay? And East Lubbock. And once you really get, if that's a concern for you, once you really get out of town a ways, I would say like here, okay? You're not really considering any of that stuff we were just discussing. Because like we just talked about right here, you've got Buffalo Springs Lake and you've got Ransom Canyon. In these areas, a lot of folks want to live in. Here's another elephant in the room, folks. Not a lot of water, okay? Not a ton of water in this general area. We've got a ton of rain this year, which has been fantastic and scary, but not a ton of water. So folks want to be by water. That's East Lubbock for you guys. I mean, so that's definitely an area that a lot of folks can be in and want to be in. Okay, I think that's probably a pretty robust, informative video of this great city that I love, and I hope you love it too. Now, I will say this, choosing the wrong area can definitely cost you. So you want to make sure that where you're moving, you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. And the best way to do that is by reaching out to me and having me help you figure that out for yourself. I do it all the time. I'll tell you guys this. My specialty is you. My specialty is YouTube people specifically that find me, watch my videos, call me or email me, and then I help you buy a house. That's my specialty. This is what I do. I mostly work with buyers who are moving to Lubbock, Texas thing. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.